Good morning, Kansas football fans. Welcome to the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. My name is BJ Harris. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas Shrine Bowl. With me is Chet Kuplen from Sports in Kansas. And today's the day that we're going to release the 68 players that will make up our participants in the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. You may notice we have the backdrop of what will be the home of the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl, Carnie Smith Stadium here on the campus of Pittsburg State University. They're our sponsor of today's selection show, and we're going to go in and talk about these 68 players. We've got 12 coaches as well, including our 2 head coaches, and we're going to break down this whole entire roster here with you, Chet. But in general, as we look over these kind of from a 30,000-foot view, you got to be excited about these 2 teams.
Absolutely. Some of the state's best players here, border to border across the state, going to duke it out here this summer at Carnie Smith Stadium, and a lot of representation from here in Southeast Kansas. A lot of great coaches and, great members of the community that are representing, their schools in one last football game as a high school student. So it's pretty cool to see some of these kids will never play football again. Some of them going on to Division I schools, Division II schools, NAIA, junior colleges, and whatnot. And what a better venue to have it here at Pittsburg State University in 2018.
And of course, we're going to talk a ton about football today. We're going to talk about these guys and some of their accolades, maybe where they're going to go play the college careers, talk about the records for the coaches and what they've done. But all of this, of course, is dwarfed oftentimes by what the purpose of this game is. And that's what we try to talk about in my office. We talk a lot about with our board of directors and when we're out talking about the Kansas Shrine Bowl. And that's the ultimate responsibility of these players, is to do their best and come in ready to play in this game. But it's all to raise money for Shriners Hospitals of Children. And that's what we're going to try to promote here today. And we're going to promote throughout the entire summer as we talk about this game and we all look to culminate here at Pittsburg State University.
Yeah, so much more than a game here. Everybody thinks that it's just one weekend in the summer or one game. A lot goes into this year-round, and that's why it's very important that we pick great representatives from each school to represent themselves here.
And we also have cheerleading all-star camp. We've got the Masonic all-state marching band, all those kind of festivities, parading downtown, and we'll have lots more promotion of those events as we get closer to July 28th. But today is the day we're going to talk about the players, and this is going to be the first opportunity for our players to find out about whether they are going to be Shrine Bowl participants. It's the first time we've ever done this before. Those players are also going to be finding out probably later on today, maybe tomorrow in their mailbox. But today we're going to talk about these individual players. So let's get to it. We're going to talk about the East team first. We're going to talk about the West team later on. We'll talk about the coaches, all that. First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and look at who the 34 participants are on the Kansas Shrine Bowl East squad right after this. Welcome back on the Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show here for the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl participants, BJ Harris and Chet Kuplen, as we're getting ready to talk about the East squad. And it's a tough deal because you've only got 34 spots, Chet, to fill, and you've got to go across the state of Kansas, across the east side here for one side of the state of Kansas for those 34 spots, plus position needs. Coaches are going to make their picks as well based on those position needs, and it all comes in to find the best 34 you can. There's going to be kids who can obviously have the talent to play in this game, but based on the spots and where you are and who your competition is at those spots, it just makes it tough on you guys.
Yeah, when you have one quarterback to select across the state and then player has to be nominated first off, and then you have one school to pick from. Kind of difficult to do, and then obviously 8-man selections have to have 2 per side, so it makes it a little bit difficult to fill a team, but I think you're going to be very happy with the team that we filled today.
Yeah, and for over 400 nominations from across the state of Kansas, nearly every school represented with players who were nominated by their coaches to be participants. We had to whittle it down to 68, and we'll get into it. Let's talk about them right now. We're going to start in alphabetical order on the east side, and we'll start in small class football. Anthony Albertini from the East squad, 6'2", 220-pound, offensive lineman, defensive lineman from St. Paul.
Yeah, self-made player. Coach Wattrick tells me basically made himself a player in the weight room over the last couple seasons. 6'2", 225 D-end, a guard on offense, probably projects to be a Division II football player at the next level, and he was our 8-man Division I Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep, and led that team to a championship opportunity. They were runners-up there against Hoxie in the 8-man classes, 8-man 1. Also from the east side, it would be Nick Allen, 6'1", 230-pound linebacker from Blue Valley Southwest in the 5A level.
Yeah, this kid is a legit FBS talent, I think, FCS talent. Over 150 tackles in just 9 games this year as a senior for Blue Valley Southwest. Plays in the EKL, the best league in Kansas, and the EKL Defensive Player of the Year, as well as the Sports in Kansas 5A Defensive Player of the Year.
Moving on, another player, the number 3 player we're talking about now for the East squad, Keyshawn Anderson from Labette County.
Yeah, legit defensive back, kick returner, first team All-SEK this year. Also one of those kids that's a speedster, 4.5 in the 40 handheld. Sean Price won the SEK League this year, and he was a big reason why on the defensive side of the football and the return man.
Yeah, certainly Labette County much improved, and Keyshawn, a big portion for that. Continue on the east side, a state champion in Sabetha 3A, and that is Wyatt Byer.
Yeah, this kid was a defensive back this year. First title in 20 years for Sabetha, and if you saw how they got it done this year, had the second most takeaways as interceptions in Kansas with 24 as a unit. He was a big part of that. They won state 7-6. Not him getting an interception, but a teammate interception on the goal line to seal the deal against Marysville this year.
Yeah, and one of his opponents. And oddly enough, the way things split up in the Shrine Bowl, not often from the Acacia side, west and east, is not the same as east and west sometimes for the Kansas Shrine Bowl. So the two guys that played against one another in the state championship are going to be teammates, and that's Jack Plummer from Marysville.
Yeah, this kid's a 3,000-yard passer this year, a big-time breakout athlete, about 6'2", 6'3", has some legs to him too. Almost 1,000 yards, almost 4,000 combined yards as a quarterback this year. He legit was a top 5 quarterback in all classifications to me this year, and a definite pick that we had to go with for Marysville. They had several that we could have went with, but big-time athlete that he is.
I said Plummer. I apologize, Jack. It's Jack Bloomer from Marysville. Continue on the east side here and staying again in the 3A ranks. Silver Lake representative. They are oftentimes this year the representative is Josh Boyd.
Yeah, this kid over 130 tackles the last 2 years, over 260 combined tackles for CJ Hamilton, the legend there at Silver Lake. Always a great defense there and always great players, and he's the representative this year from Silver Lake.
I like my big guys, so we got to talk about those big guys as well as we roll on through this list alphabetically. And just up the road here from where we're at Carnie Smith Stadium in Fort Scott, one of the best offensive linemen in the state of Kansas, Andrew Callahan.
Yeah, and this was kind of an at-need pick because they had a couple of studs on that team with the Fuel kid, but Callahan, a kid, one of the best linemen in all classifications of Kansas, a top 22 pick in all the classes, and Bob Campbell calls him the best two-way lineman that he's ever coached at Fort Scott. And you and I know a lot about Fort Scott High School football. That means a lot.
Yep, seen him play many times. Staying here in Southeast Kansas, and you said it in the open, we've got some good representation from Southeast Kansas. A lot of that goes to the fact there's some success, some good teams in Southeast Kansas. Frontenac played for a state title. Pittsburg made a run in there in 5A as well. And talking about Pittsburg, their quarterback, the guy that kind of made them go this year, Chase Curtis.
Yeah, 6'5 and a half, 180 pounds. He's already grown almost an inch since the season's been over. He's got a 4.57 40. This kid's a legit live arm baseball player, a good basketball player, 3-sport athlete. I think he projects as a nice quarterback at the next level. Big arm, but played in a running offense, and I think you'll be real happy with him as a quarterback in this game.
Get to play in his hometown as well. That's always an exciting opportunity for players. We have that when we move this game across the state of Kansas. Everybody gets opportunity from time to time to play in their hometown stadium, and that's what Chase will get to do this year for the East squad. Continuing on the East squad and back up to the large classification, a team, again, that's put a lot of players in the Shrine Bowl, Olathe North and Eric Dooley.
Yeah, had over 170 tackles this year for Olathe North, the Eagles. They've struggled a little bit as a team, but that competitive football, very good up there overall. But he was a playmaker out of the Sunflower League, first team All-League, as well as a top 100 senior from Sports in Kansas.
And back down to Southeast Kansas from the Metro, we go to Columbus. Again, another team that's had a ton of success. Another team that had plenty of kids that could have been on this team. Sam Eddington going to represent the Titans.
Yeah, really hard sometimes in a specialty position, but this kid, one of the top 2A linemen in 4A2 for the last 4 years. This kid started in the state title game as a freshman all the way back in 2014. He's been there a long time. A lot of teams happy to see him graduated, but he'll get one last chance to represent his high school in this game.
Yep, and then Coach Grundy coached in this game, I believe, last year. He's coached in it before because of the success Columbus has had. Won't be this year, but going to have another kid represented there from Columbus. Continuing on the East squad, approaching about the third of the way through our announcement of the players here for the East squad, and we go to St. Thomas Aquinas, a team that played here, runners-up at Carnie Smith Stadium a few weeks ago, and they'll be represented by Jared Flood.
Yeah, this kid can do anything. Kind of a utility back if he needs to be on offense. They were so loaded, they used him really as a safety, strong safety type. Has some wheels to him as a return man as well. That team is very loaded. It was hard to break down a pick. Junior heavy, but Jared Flood, two-time All-EKL player and a top 100 senior.
6A representative here from Lawrence Free State, be Greg Foster.
Yeah, Gage Foster, actually, and he's a product of the Foster family from Coffeyville. His dad, the longtime football coach there, Skip Foster, and then Grandpa Dick Foster. He is a stud linebacker, as well as played a little bit of quarterback for them. I think he'd be really happy with that pick there, a hard-nosed player.
See, at the 6A level, Blue Valley North going to be represented this year by Dylan Freeberg.
Yeah, one of the top tight end, wide receiver hybrids in the state this year. They went to him a lot, over 1,100 yards receiving. First state title in history for that program. He has Wisconsin commit Graham Mertz hitting him with strikes all year long. He's just a junior. Hopefully we see him in the game next year.
Head to Wellsville. The Wells representative this year going to be Anthony Geist.
Yeah, I see some of these guys that maybe don't project as a Division I caliber football player, but this kid was hitting kids all over the place when I went to the Galena-Wellsville game and solidified why he would be an all-state selection this year, so a great pick at linebacker for Wellsville.
Again, you're watching the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. BJ Harris with you. Alongside me is Chet Kuplen as we are breaking down the selections, the participants who will be representing their communities throughout the state of Kansas in the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. It's going to be taking part right here at Carnie Smith Stadium in Pittsburg. We continue on as we move on down the list here, and we talk about another Southeast Kansas kid, and man, I got a chance to see this kid play this year in my broadcasting opportunities. That's 6'4", 220-pound tight end out of Frontenac, Brock Ginnivan.
Yeah, really kind of a hybrid position on offense, tight end, wide receiver. Frontenac won't use a tight end a ton. A great D-end, has a Wyoming offer at the FBS level. He's been up to 230 at times, but ranges around 220, 230. And a top 11 selection for Frontenac in all classes for the first time since 1965 and the 4A2 Player of the Year.
Continue to fill out that offensive line for the East squad and move on to Washburn Rural Representative Jacob Glendenning, 6'5", 280-pound big guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy, and he's a sleeper at the offensive line position, really for a lot of programs in the state. Two-time All-City pick, top 100 senior, and really a road grader.
Stay up front for the East squad, a 6'3", 265-pound offensive lineman from Mill Valley, and that's Mitchell Grissom.
Yeah, he was a part of the 5A state title that won it here, not this year, but in 2016, and then prior to that, winning again back-to-back state titles. Really played 3 years there, and a great offensive lineman in this game, plays in the best league in Kansas, and was dominating at times.
Continuing on, Blue Valley Northwest going to have a player in this year's 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl, big fella as well, 6'4", 215, Jackson Heath.
Yeah, this guy really did everything but kind of drive the bus for the team this year. He's played running back, tight end, wide receiver. He's played defensive back, outside linebacker, D-end in his career. He has an Oregon State offer, a big-time talent, and the kid can run as well.
He go get his CDL. He could drive the bus also probably now since he turns 18. Also, and going to be with the head coach. We'll talk about the coaches in a little bit. Coach Warren Seitz, head coach at Nemaha Central, is going to be the head coach for the East squad. He's got a player on here that did, again, about everything for them, Mitchell Henry.
Yeah, he played quarterback for them this year, and I thought at one point they were the favorite to win the Class 3A state title. He's a great basketball player, two-time All-State pick. He does everything. He's not really a quarterback, played quarterback for him. He can do everything. I project him probably as a defensive back in this game. 21
of our 34 picks are in the book for the East squad. We continue on. Go to Shawnee Heights 5A school, 6'4", 280-pound, another offensive lineman, Cade Holmes.
Yeah, and he can move well, 6'4", 280, and was very good in that Centennial League this year and has been for the last 2 years, and a great addition to the offensive line here.
Continue on, it's from Lawrence High, and I know you're high on this kid, and I watched some highlight video of him as well. Very good player for Lawrence High, and that's Dante Jackson, a 5'7", 185-pound, just athlete. Yeah, he does everything. He plays quarterback for them, but doesn't, not really a quarterback. He's going to be a wide receiver corner at the next level. He is just 5'7", 150, but he has a 43.5-inch vertical. His dad is a former strength and conditioning coach at KU. He has one FCS offer at this point, and this kid may be the best athlete in this game. It's a good opportunity to talk about one of the things about the Shrine Bowl is you may have a position you played in high school. There may have been a position you played when you were a freshman and sophomore and then moved into a different position when you got bigger by your junior year. And when you get in, there's only 34 guys on the field. You may be forced into a position, or not necessarily forced in, but asked to play a corner whenever you played safety, or you might be played linebacker when you played D-end. I mean, there's different things you're going to have to do, and having a guy like Dante Jackson on your team is going to help. Absolutely. We see guys like Jordy Nelson. Had Snyder never asked him to move to the offensive side of the football as a wide receiver from D-back after a high school quarterback, we would never know. Or a guy like Kerry Meyer moved to wide receiver. Both of those guys played in this Shrine Bowl game, and those proved to be why they're in the NFL. Yeah, big-time players. Jordy Nelson in the Kansas Shrine Bowl Hall of Fame, and older brother Shad from the Meyer family is in the Shrine Bowl Hall of Fame as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Kerry makes it there sometime soon as well. Continuing on down the reins into the running back, linebacker spot, I got a chance to see this kid as well. He broadcast a game for the Trojans of Girard when they played Burlington, and he had over 400 yards rushing, several touchdowns. Connor Jeffers, just that quintessential high school player.
Yeah, and not a big kid, and a single wing quarterback, so more than likely could be a running back or linebacker in this. Also had over 100 tackles this year, was a finalist for 4A2 Player of the Year. He's headed to Neosho County to play baseball. He's one of the elite catchers in the state of Kansas, but he is a legit athlete.
And going back to the big boys up front, 6'4", 290-pound offensive lineman out of DeSoto, and that's Marshall Kellner.
Yeah, this kid has a 4.2 GPA, an ACT score over 30. He gets it done in the classroom, on the field, over 90 pancakes, as many as you and I could eat in one sitting. This kid is an absolute stud, 6'3 and a half, 290 pounds, checks out all the way. Major schools really kind of sleeping on him. D2 offers at this point, but he's probably the best lineman I've checked out on film this year.
Sounds like a challenge I might be willing to take. You take 60, I'll do 30, and I think we might have a chance to take down those breakfast pancakes. Back to Southeast Kansas again, back up front for the East squad out of Galena, 6'3", 250-pound offensive lineman. This kid played, I think, all 4 years for the Bulldogs, and that's Trevor Little.
Yeah, one of the best players Coach Sarwinski's had over there on both sides of the football, and that was a great unit, offensive line and defensive line this year. They were mean, they were tough, they were nasty, and he was a big reason why. He's also very athletic. He's a pitcher in baseball, first-team All-League, and two-time first-team All-3A All-State.
Did skip over one in the L's in my alphabetical order here, but back to the 8-man ranks, and one of our 2 representatives, 8-man. Again, another team that's probably the favorite to be in the final 4 8-man. That's Burlingame and Tristan Lee. Yeah,
the co-defensive player of the year along with Albertini from Sports in Kansas, 8-man Division I this year. He was a force, led 8-man 1 in tackles this year, and played nose guard, a little bit of D-end. In this game, you could line him up as a fullback if you want, a center or whatnot. Not overly tall, 5'10", 240 pounds, whatever he is. But make no mistake about it, he may be an 8-man player, but he can play at any level in Kansas.
Moving on down the line, only a few more picks here to talk about the East squad. Still more to come here on the pregame or on this selection show. We're going to talk about the West squad coming up in just a little bit, but a few more picks to mention here on the East as we talk about Topeka High's Tanner Mathias.
Yeah, this is a kid, 2-time All-City pick and all-non-senior from Sports in Kansas a year ago, plays for Walt Alexander, and that's become a consistent playoff team in Topeka. Under him, they've had some big-time athletes. He's paved the way for some of the best athletes really in the state. You look a couple years ago, Mike McCoy, and then this year, obviously, Kai Thomas, a 5-star recruit. I feel like next year that'll be a junior. Great offensive lineman, not overly big as far as height, but a good pickup here.
Olathe East going to have another player yet again in the Kansas Shrine Bowl, and this time it's Cameron Mitchell.
Yeah, a first-team All-Sunflower League pick, and obviously a guy with some speed, a defensive back, wide receiver. I think he can help on both sides of the football, and they project more so on the defensive side of the football.
Emporia, another team that has always had a ton of good players to participate in this ball game, and they'll be represented again here in 2018. This time it'll be Jonathan Olson.
Yeah, relentless offensive lineman here, a sleeper. I know a lot of the Division I programs are close, if not real close to offering him preferred walk-on spots. He's that caliber of a player, and we know all about some of the walk-on programs in state, what those kids go on to do. So a very good pickup there.
Looking at my list here, we've got about 6 more picks here from the East squad before we take a break and talk about the West team. But as we do, we go back to the capital city, Topeka Hayden, 6'4", 222-pound linebacker Brett Peevely.
Yeah, and that was a tough pick here because they had a wide receiver we could have went with as well, but at need position was linebacker, and this kid deserves it. A top 33 pick in all classifications from the Topeka Capital Journal this past year. 170 tackles as a senior. I got to see him live at Frontenac this year in that semifinal. Very good two-way player, a fullback as well, good linebacker, and got some size to him.
Moving on and staying up there in the Northeast Kansas area, and one of the decorated players in Kansas high school football and other sports as well, and that's out of Bishop Miege, 6 foot, 190-pound quarterback Carter Putz.
Yeah, this kid, the all-time record holder in touchdown passes in a season, in a career, passing yards in a career, and he had to battle for a starting spot 2 years ago as a sophomore, and he could have very easily gave up football and said, hey, I'm committed to Notre Dame to play baseball. I'm not going to play any football. No. He decides to play. He could be recruited if he did want to play football, but perhaps the most decorated passing quarterback in the history of Kansas high school football, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year.
And another leader of another state championship team, many represented here on our East squad. Continuing on to a 2A level, and from Opie, Damon Schmidt.
Yeah, coach's son, a good defensive back, also a tight end wide receiver type as well, very good basketball player, a good pickup for Class 2A and a nice small school player.
Stay in the 2A ranks, and a team that made a trip to Pittsburgh. I'm sure this will be a better experience for this young man than that trip was a few weeks ago. They played in there a few weeks ago. They played at this stadium in their playoff game against St. Mary's Colgan, and that was Linden, and that is Dexton Swinehart, their representative.
I forget how many ways he scored a touchdown in high school, but it's ridiculous. Interception return, fumble return, kickoff return, punt return, rushing, passing, whatever, you name it, this kid did it. He played everything for them, a 3-year All-State selection. And I've seen some scores this year. He's putting up 20, 25 a night in basketball, so just a really good all-around athlete. And I think you could plug him anywhere except for the offensive line. He'd be good.
So many of these kids, too, you see that if they're, all-staters and opportunities to represent their communities on the Kansas Shrine Bowl, they're going to be good players either on the court or on the field during football or baseball season. They're just all-around athletes, a lot of them.
Yeah, great multiple sport kids, and that's what coaches tell me. College recruiters or whatnot, they love kids that play multiple sports, and you see a lot of them on this list. You're starting to see that across a lot of things outside of basketball, NBA. A lot of the kids in NFL draft, MLB or whatnot, multiple sport kids.
2 left to make up our 34-man roster for the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. Back to the Metro, and we talk about Kansas City Schlegel's Ivan Webb.
Yeah, inner city football has struggled for time in Kansas City, but this kid put Schlegel really on the map. They're not to that EKL Sunflower level, but this kid, over 2,700 yards this year. Incredible story on him. We did a feature of him on Faces in Kansas, talking about how he kind of grew up in poverty with his mom, got an offer at the last minute from Missouri State where he is signing this week. Incredible story on that young man, and just a great representative of his school, and he's probably really thrilled that he's going to be playing in this game.
We're thrilled to have him. And then our final player for the East squad, another hometown kid that's going to be playing here at Carnie Smith Stadium, playing in his hometown, and that is from St. Mary's Colgan, Max Wilson.
Yeah, this kid has some speed to him, did track as a sophomore, 50 seconds in the 400 when he did do it. Has some size too, probably 6 foot, 200 pounds, close to that. Kick returner, punt returner, can play a little bit of running back, but I think he may project here as best middle linebacker, outside linebacker.
But again, another one of those players that can play a lot of sport, a lot of different positions, which is beneficial when you start talking about the Shrine Bowl. So we'll see our full list of players for the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl from the East squad, and as we do, we'll talk about the coaches. You see there to the bottom right of your screen, the coaches for the East squad. We mentioned the head coach, Warren Seitz. Again, the way head coaches, they get into the Shrine Bowl by their performance on the season 1 year, and then that group of coaching staff come together and they vote on who's the head coach going to be. And so last year, 2017 coaching staff voted Coach Seitz to be their head coach. Nemaha Central, the Thunder there for him, 10-1 this season, and obviously well-deserving to be a head coach.
Yeah, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because he played in the NFL for a bit, quarterback at Mizzou back in the day, a Topeka West alum, now coaching at Nemaha Central there in Seneca since that consolidated Baileyville B&B in Nemaha Valley now forms Nemaha Central. He's done an outstanding job with that program. 2 football communities, really 2 sports communities, and brought them together, and he's done an outstanding job. They were my favorite to win this year, and great representative as the head coach of the East squad.
Silver Lake's ended a lot of teams' opportunities in the East squad over the history of that program, and unfortunately, but good for Coach Seitz. He'll get to have a good experience here in Pittsburgh. Topeka going to get another representative head coach, Walt Alexander, 8-2 on the season for the Trojans.
Yeah, this is a consistent playoff team. They've kind of failed to get over that hump, but we're talking 6A football, and he's brought a program relevant that wasn't relevant. He's done an outstanding job, a lot of athletes, and you talk about sending kids on to the next level or sending kids in representation in this Shrine Bowl. He's one of them that's brought a lot of kids here, and great representative for 6A.
We're going to end up, and it's just by luck of the draw, some of it, the way teams have finished this season. There's going to be three coaches, assistant coaches.
We're not biased.
From Crawford County. It's just as much as people are going to say, it's the way it happened this year, and it's just because Southeast Kansas had a really good season this year at the state level. But the 5A representative, and I'm thrilled to have him on the team, and that's a guy I know fairly well, Purple Dragons head coach for Pittsburgh, Tom Nicholson.
Yeah, and going to bring a great player on with him in this game, and Chase Curtis, 8-3 this year. Dragons has been a consistent program, and obviously a guy that's well-known in this area, and cool to see him coaching this game.
Another guy who's got some experience in the Shrine Bowl, I believe as a player, ton of experience here at this stadium as a player, and then experience as a head coach now and getting an opportunity to coach his first Shrine Bowl. A long coaching tradition with his dad, who was at St. Mary's Colgan as well. Mark Smith going to represent the Frontenac Raiders.
Yeah, perhaps one of the greatest careers. We talk about Carter Putz. This kid went undefeated and won 4 state titles, 3 as a starter, 3-time at least top 33, just in football, not mentioned baseball, basketball, whatever else he did. Incredible high school talent, 2-time All-American right back here and a great coach. He's really revamped that Frontenac program. Maybe their fourth best team that they've had since he's been there this year, and he took them to a state title. I don't know how he did it, but he did. He got them playing their best football at the end of the year. People in Frontenac love him. People in this community love him, and a great representative.
And at the 3A ranks, again, you mentioned the state championship, a 1-point victory for Sabetha, Garrett Michael, and they won a state title. He's had to deal with some other stuff up there, obviously, a tragedy that happened that same day. And, head coaches often have to be thrust into a position that is way outside of football, but it's just as important for a community. I talked with Coach Michael about that a little bit, and it's been a tough time for him, but a thrill to give him a kind of an opportunity to coach here in the Shrine Bowl.
Yeah, great representative, Sabetha, not only on the field, but off the field. 13-1 this year. I can tell you right now, none of the experts, not myself, Matt Gilmore, Britt Maycock, nobody had Sabetha winning a state title, especially in the fashion that they did this year. So it'll be interesting to see him here. Obviously brings on a player as well. First state title in 20 years. First ever title in 3A, as those last two were in 4A.
And then finally, our last coach for the East squad, again from Pittsburgh here, and they were runners-up at the 2A level, losing to Smith Center, and that is first-year head coach. We've got several guys, one first-year head coaches for their respective programs in this game, and one of them is Sean Seamatter from St. Mary's Colgan.
Yeah, Colgan, first time there in 7 years, and you take over a legend like Chuck Smith. I mean, even to apply for that job shows you, what this guy has. And did an outstanding job with this group of kids, and really cool to see him in there as his first year, and I think he's 26, 27 years old, so pretty cool.
That's rounds out our East squad for the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. Very excited for those young men again. Fellas, you're going to be getting in contact pretty soon about your opportunity here to participate in this charity all-star game. And again, I highly recommend it. I'm fortunate to have played in this ball game as well, been around it for several years, and it is going to be a one of a lifetime opportunity to learn about what this game means to kids in need at Shriners hospitals across the country. 22 Shrine hospitals that you get to go play football to raise money for kids. That's a pretty good time. And I'm excited for you guys and looking forward to having the East squad. They'll be at camp in Emporia coming up later this summer, and then they're going to strap it up here at Carnie Smith Stadium here at Pittsburg State University, a sponsor of today's 2018 Shrine Bowl Selection Show. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the West squad next from the Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. Welcome back to the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. B.J. Harris with you. Executive Director of the Kansas Shrine Bowl. With me is Chet Kuplen from Sports in Kansas. We just rolled through 34 participants and 6 coaches for the East squad of the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl that's going to take place right here behind us coming up on July 28th here at Pittsburg State at Carnie Smith Stadium. And so we talked about the East squad. Feel good about that squad. It's time to move to the western half of the state. And when it comes to Shrine Bowl, really the western two-thirds of the state. But, man, another good team. In the history of the Shrine Bowl, the West has an advantage in that win category over the East squad. That is kind of leveled out maybe over the last 4 or 5 years, but the West has always just been so tough. And they were picked to win the year I played in 2000, but we ended up winning in that ball game. And you can bet, it certainly had nothing to do with me in that ball game. But let's talk about the West squad. Again, we're going in alphabetical order. 34 participants we're going to talk about here, and we'll start with out there in Lindsborg, Smoky Valley, 4A player, and Kyle Anderson.
Yeah, an outstanding running back and linebacker for them this year. They made a run in the playoffs this year under Coach Lambert, also a representative as a coach in 4A2, this year, and we'll talk about him in a bit. But a great pick, a top 100 senior.
Moving on into the West, way out West, you were talking about holding up the map. We got a kid from Galena on the East squad. We go to the other corner of the state in the Northwest corner and up to Goodland, a 4A representative in Levi Orchard.
Yeah, this kid's got a preferred walk-on offer at Kansas State. Gives you the type of talent that he is. 6'4", 215 pounds. I saw him in May at a combine. And he looks like he's been living in a weight room because he's about up 15 pounds. He's been offered right back here at Pittsburg State to play. High school quarterback, can plug him in anywhere, probably safety or linebacker at the next level. So a very nice athlete on both sides of the football.
2A representative there in the West squad, and that is from Sedgwick, Neil Bever.
Yeah, led the state of Kansas in interceptions as a junior. Followed it up, I believe, by 9 this year. I think he had 20 interceptions in 20 games, so an absolute ball hawk. First team 2 years in a row, all 2A. Sedgwick was one of those teams, pretty good over the last couple of years. Had a couple players that you could have went with here, but obviously a net need position here, and Bever the pick.
Yeah, and if you are a ball hawk and you can find the ball, sometimes the Shrine Bowl is a good place for that, because the timing's not just right for those guys only having a week to prepare for each other, and so we'll see what kind of a game he brings to this year's activities. Into the 5A ranks, Ark City down there, and Andrew Brotman.
Yeah, this is a kid going to Neosho County for baseball, so a multiple sport kid. Had some big games this year as well. His team struggled a little bit, still big-time athlete at the wide receiver position. Can probably plug him in some spots on defense as well, but big-time receiver out there in the Wichita area.
Yeah, and that's something, too, that teams, oftentimes a lot of kids we have on here, we mentioned on the East Squad, a lot of state championship teams, but not every team's going to have a winning record. Not every team can have a winning record, but the good players rise to the top. Good players are going to get an opportunity to go on either to the next level, and oftentimes good players are going to make their opportunity to be here at the Kansas Shrine Bowl.
Yeah, and kids represented from all classifications, with coaches bringing on people per class, so you see a good mix. We have 8-man players on each side. You see players from 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, all the way up. It's not like we're going and picking the top recruits in Kansas. The best representation by position across the whole state, border to border, from class to class, is kind of the mix what we get here at the Kansas Shrine Bowl.
Yeah, and then with that said, up to one of the biggest schools in the state of Kansas, and that is Wichita Northwest 6A school in Garrett Bridwell.
Yeah, very nice defensive lineman for them. First team All-City this year. Had a lot of loaded cast of players. A lot of those kids are juniors this year. Coach Martin has done an outstanding job of that program. We'll talk about him in a bit. He's the 6A rep as a head coach. Outstanding offense, but the difference with Wichita Northwest this year from past years, their defense buckled down, and Bridwell was a big reason why.
4A and Bueller, another one of those traditional powerhouses out there on the west side at the 4A level, and that's their representative this year is going to be Jet Burkhouse.
And one of the best defensive players in that class, but they had a lot of kids that could have been in this game, as could McPherson. Those schools out of the AVCTL leagues this year were absolutely loaded on the defensive side of the football. He's a kid being looked at as a walk-on at the FBS level, very good linebacker. Could probably plug him in inside or out.
And then we talked about the northwest corner. This is really the northwest corner of the state of Kansas. You are much closer to Denver, maybe closer to Cheyenne, Wyoming than you are to Pittsburg, Kansas when you're at St. Francis. But our 8-man representative from St. Francis, and that's Tate Busey.
Yeah, and he had a pretty good All-American defensive back right here, Andy Poling from St. Francis at Pittsburg State, that also played in the Shrine Bowl. This kid, a stud, can jump out of the gym about a 35-inch vertical. In this first 3 or 4 games, he had 11 dunks in basketball this year. A kid that was an all-state pick in basketball. You're not going to notice he's an 8-man football player. Wide receiver, D-back, he can do it all.
That's only 11 more dunks than I had this year. So that's
Dunkin' Donuts.
From 8-man ranks all the way to the 6A ranks and to Junction City, they've always had a lot of representatives as well in the Kansas Shrine Bowl, and Xavier Carson.
Yeah, high-character kid, 6'4", 265-pound offensive lineman. He's played D-end, he's played tight end. Really projects as an offensive lineman, finishes blocks a little bit raw, but great player so far, and a high-character kid, and a good pick for this team.
Into the 5A ranks out in Wichita, Cape and Mount Carmel. Maybe a running back, linebacker possibly for this ball game. 6 foot 202 pounds, 6 foot 200 pounds. Nick Channel.
Yeah, kid's got some speed to him. Can play a little bit, all over the field, as you mentioned. First team All-City pick, a top 100 senior this year, and really a reason Cape had some success this year.
Once again, at the 5A ranks, and a big fella again, maybe one of the biggest in this ball game on this roster. 6'7", 305 from Great Bend, Aaron Clark.
And actually talked to him yesterday. He's up to 6'8", 305 pounds. If you're watching this, college coaches, he has no offers at the next level. He is huge. He's a road grader. Maybe needs a little bit of development with some footwork, but he is a great player, and he will be the biggest player out in that football field. I can guarantee you that. And
he's going to get an opportunity coming up later this summer in the 2A ranks, a team that, again, has had a pretty good run at the 2A level. Phillipsburg, this guy could do it all up front, 6'1", 215, Kirk Kunz.
Yeah, this kid squats nearly 500 pounds, has some offers, I believe, or they're looking at him at the Ivy League, over a 30 ACT, so high-character kid. Fullback, linebacker type. They had several kids we could have went with. Senior-heavy team this year, and was one of our finalists for the 3A Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep, they have a nice little run up there at Phillipsburg. Go to the 4A ranks. Wichita Collegiate, another offensive lineman, 6'4", 250, Mac Copeland.
And if you've ever seen a picture of him, he looks like he's about 6'7", 285 pounds. Collegiate sent a lot of guys Division I over the years. He's their next. He's going to KU, full scholarship kid. They also had Cody McNerney on that team this year that's going to walk on as a preferred walk-on to KU. Those were their two key players. He is a big-time offensive lineman that can move well.
Continuing on, as we are about halfway through our picks here for the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl West squad. We've already done the East squad a little bit earlier on here in the show. On to the West side here as we talk about the players who have been selected. 34 players going to have an opportunity to participate in the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. As we do, we go to Valley Center, 5'10", 175-pound wide receiver, D-back guy, Dalton Cross.
Yeah, and a takeaway machine, a very good first-team All-City pick this year, a top 100 senior, and obviously a kid has a nose for the football, nearly led Class 5A in interceptions. And his stepdad, Steve Martin, assistant coach here in the game from Wichita Northwest.
On to the 6A ranks again, up there and to the other corner, southwest corner of the state of Kansas, Garden City, 6'4", 285. He's a stud, DeMarcus Elliott.
Kid plays basketball as well as a 6A state shot put champion, being slept on. The most slept on athlete I've ever seen to not have an FBS offer since I've been doing what I've been doing for 5.5 years. 6A defensive player of the year in the state. Really strong, can move, big. You can plug him in an offense as well, but a very good defensive tackle.
Our other 8-man representative on this West squad from Hanover, 6'5", 305 pound. You think he stands out on an 8-man team? That's Carlos Emmanuel.
And had opportunity to see him at several combines over the last couple of years. Had the highest bench press reps at the Sharp Performance Combine last year. And this kid, one rep maxes 450 pounds on the bench press. Still a little bit raw in football, but he scored 22 points the other night in basketball. So that shows you the footwork that he has. He has a K-State preferred walk-on offer. He will definitely be the strongest guy out in the football field.
Until you or I are standing down the sidelines, of course. Yeah. Not a chance there. Andale got a chance to see these guys play as well when they played McPherson in that semifinal game. Andale going to be representative as they have many times. 6'4", 210-pound player, Grant Fairchild.
Yeah, a very good athlete. Really could plug him in at linebacker, D-end, or tight end, or offensive line, wherever you want to plug him in on offense. Very good player. They had a lot of kids that you could have went with, but this kid, perfect fit for this game.
To the 2A ranks in Plainville, their representative this year is going to be Hayden Gillim.
Yeah, this kid last year, 6'3", 205 pounds. I believe last time I talked to him, he's 255 in a year. He was a linebacker. They've moved him to nose guard, D-end, tackle, fullback. This guy can play anywhere, being looked at a lot of Division II programs and some FBS programs as a walk-on.
Up to Manhattan, and another guy that can play D-end, linebacker, tight end for Manhattan, 6'3", 210-pound Nick Grubbs.
Yeah, and relentless defender on defensive end. You can plug him in as an inside backer, outside backer type as well. Plays much bigger than his 210-pound frame, if he even is that. One of the top defenders in 6A this year and a top 100 senior.
Watching the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show here presented by Pittsburg State University at Pittsburg State University, Carnie Smith Stadium, the backdrop here of the show, the home of this 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl coming up on July 28th. BJ Harris alongside me, Chet Kuplen from Sports in Kansas. I'm from the Kansas Shrine Bowl, and we're moving right on down this list of West participants for the 2018 game, and we go to Hayesville campus. Another one of those guys that can play both sides of the football, 6'1", 170, Rico Harvey Jr.
Yeah, and a state champion track and field athlete as well, so multiple sport kid. Not a big kid, but has some height to him, and he has some speed. Good on both sides of the football. You don't see that in 6A football very much. They beat Hutchinson twice this year, and that was the first time that they'd done so in a long time, I think almost 20 years, however long it had been. But big-time athlete, one of the best players in the city of Wichita.
I've had the opportunity to broadcast a lot of football games over my 16-year career in broadcasting. Maybe one of the best performances by a quarterback that I'd ever seen was right here on this stadium a few weeks ago at the 5A state championship, and it was Bishop Carroll quarterback Braden Howe, 6'2", 200. He had himself a day here and leading his team to a state title, and he'll be a quarterback representative for Bishop Carroll.
And playing against one of the best defenses in the state in St. Thomas Aquinas, and made them look just average out there. Big-time talent, a no-brainer for the pick at the quarterback, over 3,000 yards this year. He's a dual threat, too, if he needs to be. His brother, the quarterback at Northern Iowa, they slept on him. He went for a year at Butler. Team's kind of sleeping on him as well, but big-time arm, big-time performer for Bishop Carroll.
He'll be the quarterback, one of the quarterbacks. So obviously, there'll be a couple of them here for the West squad. Staying out there around the Wichita Metro, Goddard Eisenhower, another 5A school, and their representative will be Tanner Keene.
Yeah, really good linebacker and athletic linebacker. Coach Marinelli tells me one of the better linebackers he's ever coached. That's been a program on the rise. They started out a little bit rough, but big reason they were in a lot of ball games is their defense.
Goddard kind of cornering the market on head coaches for the Kansas Shrine Bowl. Goddard Eisenhower, Coach Marinelli was the head coach last year. Scott Vang from Goddard, he'll be the head coach this year. We'll talk more about Coach Vang in just a little bit, and you'll recognize another name here a little bit later on in our show. Derby, the 6A school powerhouse in 6A, 5'10", 190-pound running back for Derby, Brody Cousin.
Yeah, and a great return man as well. You know, you look at him, probably doesn't pass the eye test if he's in street clothes, but that kid, one of the best backs in the entire state. Top 11 selection, 6A finalist for Player of the Year this year. Absolute stud as a 2-year starting running back for them. A big part of the reason they won a title last year, and a major part of why they were even there this year, because they replaced everybody from last year. But Coach Clark out at Derby really has that team rolling.
And another state championship player, this time in the 2A ranks from Smith Center, and that's 6'2", 235-pound Dalton Kuhn.
And, you know, Smith Center, basically, you know, football players onto the next level. You can name how many. Mark Semino in the Hall of Fame here. You know, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, is from there. Braden Wilson, a guy that got drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs out of K-State. The list goes on and on. Brooks Barta. And so many good players there over the years. This is the guy that's next in line, 6'2", 235-pound Dalton Kuhn. All classes Defensive Player of the Year, 1 through 6A. We did not care if he's from 2 and 1A. He's one of the best huddle videos I've seen all year. Been offered a preferred walk-on spot at Kansas State. They only offer probably 4 or 5 of those a year. So it gives you an idea of the talent that this kid has.
Moving on down the list again, just a few more left to go, probably around 10 or so. We're talking about here on the West Squad selections to the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. We'll go to the 4A level. Clay Center, they'll have Peyton Lane.
Yeah, quarterback for them, but he's going to be a defensive back in this game. Can plug him in a lot of spots. The kid, pretty good on the offensive side, but way better projects at the defensive side at the next level. 2-time state champion in pole vault, 35-inch vertical. First playoff win since 1993 for that community there. So this kid, big-time athlete.
And on the other side, a team that is perennially down the stretch and has been for many times, that's Conway Springs at the 3A level. Offensive lineman, defensive end, possibly 6'1", 235, Matthew Lang.
Yeah, and did 225, I think, 16 times at a combine last year. This kid is a freak in the weight room. If you looked at Conway Springs and any of their team pictures, they look like they all live in a weight room there. He's a big reason why. Great offensive lineman, DN. Kind of your Kuhn type, probably a little bit stronger than him. Really good player.
9 left here in this list of 34 players who will get a chance to play in the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl, and go to Heston, the Swathers, and their representative, Reese Neville.
Yeah, wide receiver over 1,000 yards this year, a top player on our seniors list, and really stepped up this year. Cameron Cox, their quarterback, was their main receiver a year ago, moved to quarterback, and he stepped in really nicely in his spot, and they had some nice playoff upsets, including that win over Conway Springs.
Again, a team that's had some success here lately, Mulvane in the 4A level. A quarterback, maybe defensive back here for this bowl game, 6'1", 180, Jaden Price.
And maybe the best athlete on that side of the football. I mean, we talk about Dante Jackson on the east. Well, this kid has the height and has the size, so he has Division I offers. North Dakota State commit Tulane offered him at the next level. And this kid, 10.73 fully automatic time in the 100-meter dash as a junior last year, so it's likely he could be the fastest guy on the field. He's a quarterback. I think you can play him at wide receiver, defensive back. He's an electric player. Way
out west once again here on the West Squad, and another team that's had a ton of success here on the gridiron here over the last few years. That's Holcomb, and the Longhorns will have Chase Rodriguez.
Yeah, Rodriguez, 6'2", 190-pound wide receiver, tight end, hybrid type in that offense for Coach Teeter there. A very good defensive back, also a punter, and he's the state's top ranked wrestler in his weight class.
And to Cimarron, not still on that half of the state, out there on the western edge, and that's Cimarron, a 3A school, and their player will be Josh Siebel.
2A player, over 1,000 yards rushing, 140-plus tackles this year, maybe off on that a little bit. State champion in wrestling last year as well, so nice pick.
On to the 4A level, and McPherson, another school that was in that semifinal, 6'3", 230, and that's Wyatt Sotelo.
I believe he had 16 sacks this year, 4A1 Defensive Player of the Year, one of the best defenses in the state. This kid was a running back, fullback type last year. Volunteered to move on to the offensive line to make his team better, to show you what type of player he is. two-way player, defensive end, sack machine, and a big-time athlete at 6'3", 230.
Into the 5A level, and Salina Central, their West representative will be Louis Sotelo.
Yeah, and a kid on a struggling football team that's been battling some injuries. Salina football at one point, everybody talked about it. It's been struggling at both schools right now. That kid didn't struggle. Very strong in the weight room, a good athlete on the offensive line, and a great pickup.
And to Goddard, we mentioned head coach Scott Vang will be the head coach for the West squad. And he's just very fortunate to have one of the best offensive linemen possibly in the state of Kansas on his team, who also happens to live in his house. That's AJ Vang, who's going to play in this West squad.
Yeah, a center, uses his hands well, gets to the next level, really explosive. Probably if he was an inch or two taller, he may have a handful of offers at this point. I know a lot of teams sleeping on him. Top 11 pick in the state of Kansas, a first-team all-non-senior last year, and one of the top linemen in the entire state.
Only two left here on the west side of things as we round out this 34-man roster for the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl West team, and we go to Wichita Heights, 6'3", 225, and Dallin Williams.
Yeah, this kid is stud. Very good athlete, first-team All-City pick 2 years in a row, and All-5A pick as well. Wichita Heights battled some suspensions and injuries and stuff early, so they weren't maybe the team that we thought they were. This kid's still a big-time player, has one FBS offer. They'll be very happy with that selection of him.
Into the final player for this West squad on this selection show, and out to the home of the Shrine Bowl in 2019. We go to Dodge City. They'll host this in June of 2019, and their representative is Dawson Williams.
Yeah, 6'3", 195-pound, 4'5", handheld 40. This kid was a running quarterback as a junior this year. Played a little bit in the direct snap offense and then moved him out to wide receiver. He is electric, major sleeper. Team struggled a little bit overall, but I think you can plug him in multiple spots in this game.
There you have it, those 34 West players that are going to represent their communities in the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. Again, fellas, you're going to get some correspondence here over the next day or so to make your commitment to participate in this game. Again, all for an incredible cause. I just can't stress how important it is and what kind of experience it'll be for you as you get a chance to come participate in the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. You're going to get to be coached by some of the best coaches in the state of Kansas as well. On the west side, combined record for these coaches, these six guys, 62-11. Not too shabby right there. Scott Vang, again, the head coach for their squad, 11-1 this year for Goddard for the Lions. And he feels he's excited about this team.
Yeah, it really has put Goddard football on the map. Some big-time athletes, big-time players there. Division I player himself back in the day, I believe, at Iowa. A lot of success, as we mentioned there, not only with Goddard Eisenhower in that Wichita area, and how battle-tested some of those teams are just to get through the gauntlet of going through those playoffs. It's a very impressive record of 11-1 and a great representative of the West.
6A representative on the coaching staff, Wichita Northwest. Their Grizzlies 10-2 this year, and Coach Steve Martin.
Yeah, and he's the president of the Kansas Football Coaches Association. Does a lot in the weight room with these kids. Has developed a lot of talent. They're going to be very good next year because they have a ton of juniors, Division I talent. Most of his key players were juniors this year, and he's had an outstanding offense. The difference with Coach Martin this year, he's really buckled down that defense and became really a two-sided coach.
Another guy who's first year as a head coach for this school in Bishop Carroll. He's been around, not his first rodeo, so to speak. Been around for a long time, but going to get a chance to coach. Won a state title in his first year as a head football coach as well, and that's Bishop Carroll, the Golden Eagles, and their head coach, Dusty Trail.
Well, it sounds like he's at a rodeo with the name Dusty Trail, one of the best names in the state. I've had an opportunity to talk with him several times. 22 years as a coordinator there for Coach Shuckman, a legend at Bishop Carroll, and how do you follow that up? Well, you win a state title this year. You shock everybody because I didn't have them beaten Aquinas. Nobody had them beaten Aquinas, and they did. I'm just shocked that they even lost a game this year on their schedule after seeing them do that. Yeah. But great representative, and they run the program the right way there at Bishop Carroll, and it'd be pretty cool to see him coaching the game.
Out there to the central part of the state, and the 4A representative from Lindsborg, Smoky Valley, the Vikings, going to have Coach Tim Lambert.
Yeah, and put him on a nice playoff run this year, 9-2. He's going to have a player in Kyle Anderson here to kind of put that program in the map, and did a nice job this year.
3A representative for the Swathers. They had a coach in this game last year. Again, first year for Coach Tyson Bowerly for the Swathers, and he's going to have a chance to coach in this Shrine Bowl.
Yeah, Heston in the last couple of years has kind of started off rough, and then they finish out really strong, and that's what they did under Ryder, and that's what they did under Coach Bowerly this year. Has some athletes, and they're going to be a premier program in 3A because a lot of their studs this year are juniors. took over a program that got second in the state last year and lost to overtime to Rossville. Comes in and does a nice job with this group, getting them going in the weight room, and they'll be a team that'll be a force next year.
West squad's got 2 state championship coaches on their staff. The East squad's got 1 and 2 runners-up, and one of the state championship coaches from Smith Center. You've talked a lot about them as well, Coach Darren Sass.
Yeah, 12-1 this year, and the first ever title at Smith Center that was not under Roger Barta, so that means something there. And I believe their last state title was when that streak ended, and I think that was maybe 2008, maybe wrong on that, 2007, whenever that it was. But very impressive this year. I watched that game against Colgan. They were dominating. They could have played at a lot of levels, 4A2. And down this year, battle-tested league, and it'll be a great representative for Smith Center.
There you have it. 34 players for the west side, 34 players on the east side, 6 coaches on the west side, 6 coaches on the east side, and a bunch of guys who are going to commit to spending their time this summer, late this summer, to raising monies for children hospitals across the country for the Shriners Hospitals for Children. BJ Harris here with you. Next to me is Chet Kuplen. We've been breaking down these players and this opportunity. We're going to take one last break. We'll come back and wrap things up here from Carnie Smith Stadium. You're watching the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl Player Selection Show. Welcome back to the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. BJ Harris with you, the Executive Director of the Kansas Shrine Bowl. Next to me is Chet Kuplen from Sports in Kansas. And wrapping things up here in this show. First time we've done this to release our players. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you are excited as we are to have all the participants. And be sure to go share this as often as possible. We'll be putting out more information here later on today on our Twitter at KS Shrine Bowl. Working with Chet from Sports in Kansas. What a product you have and what opportunity you have and give kids to promote themselves across the state of Kansas.
Yeah, we have Sports in Kansas on Snapchat. We started out obviously on Twitter, over 99,000 followers on that, Scores in Kansas, as well as Instagram, Sports in Kansas, Facebook, Sports in Kansas, and then a website as well to promote all this, podcasts, live radio shows, different things like that, and constantly promoting football, all sports in the state of Kansas, and then it's been great over the last 3-4 years working with the Kansas Shrine Bowl and really being a part of it to see how much more, it's not just a game here. There's so much more that goes into this, and if you're listening to this, watching this, players, playing this game, this is a big deal. It means a big deal to the kids. It means a big deal to your coaches, the community, whatnot. Until you actually experience this, you never see anything like it.
Yeah, you have no idea what you're about to experience, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Plus, you get to play football one last time, maybe if you're not going to go on and play at the next level. Again, you'll be finding more information about your experience, your opportunity here for the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl. Be sure to go to our website as well. That's www.kansasshrinebowl.com. Again, we've got 15 volunteer board of directors across the state of Kansas that spend a lot of time to put this thing on as well. Thank them, as well as support staff back in the office, Janet Becker, who puts together all of our player information packets. We'll be getting those out to you fellas very, very soon. And again, we appreciate your time today, and we're looking forward to a wonderful opportunity here at Carnie Smith Stadium, thanks to the support of Pittsburg State University. And remember, it's for the kids, and the 2018 Kansas Shrine Bowl is strong legs run, so weak legs may walk. Thank you.